It has been said that the end of a playing career is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of a new chapter where the lessons of discipline, resilience, and teamwork take on new meaning. Let's talk about life after athletics on today's episode of the Playing with a Purpose podcast. All right, welcome to the Playing with a Purpose podcast, where we explore topics related to the moral development of collegiate athletes and young people as it relates to character, responsibility, and purpose. I'm your host, Matt Barker, and today, excited to have one of my good friends, Mr. Mike McCutchen, with me, former head men's basketball coach at Freed-Hardeman and former athletic director at Freed-Hardeman, talking about a great topic today. Mike, welcome to the program.
Well, thanks. It's good to be here. Always good to talk to you, Matt.
Yeah. Mike's been a frequent guest on one of my other shows that we have, the radio program, Top 9 program. Mike's a big music guy, so he loves doing things with the Top 9 that we have on Wednesdays usually. So I know Mike pretty well. I'm glad to have him on. And the topic today is talking about life after athletics. And he was joking with me. He's wearing a shirt right now that says retirement plan and some guy playing a guitar. So he is retired now. But Mike, tell us a little bit about the experience you've had with athletics, athletic director, men's basketball, all that good stuff.
Yeah, well, experience-wise, it goes way back. Of course, got my education here at Freed-Hardeman, then at University of Memphis, got a master's in education. But I started out in junior high, coaching in junior high, and then I moved into high school, coached there. Then I was assistant college coach, and I became a college head coach, and then athletic director. So I pretty much went every step of the way in athletics,
right.
And saw everything you could see and dealt with all ages and had a lot of great experience.
Yeah, and you were at Freed-Hardeman, I looked this up, but you were assistant coach for Charlie Smith from 1986 to 1988. Then you took over the head coaching position in 1988 till about, I guess, 2004. So that would have been quite a while.
Right.
And then athletic director from 2007 to 2022. So
right.
I guess that's right. So a total of about 36 years at Freed-Hardeman.
I was here for 36 years and 36 great years. So
yeah, and always, I worked for Mike a little bit when I was in the athletic department at Freed. Always enjoyed my time there before I started teaching and left him. I left him, and then Mike had to retire after
he let me down big time.
So yeah, it's always good chatting with Mike. Mike has been, I guess, retired now for 3 years. So you've been kind of out of the athletic department for about 3 years, probably staying pretty busy with your wife, Spring, probably keeps you pretty busy at the house though. So,
I've got my wife, my daughter, my granddaughter, and now my mother live here in town. So Between the four of them, there's always something to do.
Yeah. So the first question I had for you, Mike, is what was the most rewarding part for you working in just the athletics field in general, maybe not just here at Freed-Hardeman, but throughout your time coaching at the junior high level, wherever it is that you've been? You mentioned that most of your career has been in athletics. So what's been the most rewarding part for you looking back now after kind of being out of it for a couple years? What was the most rewarding part for you?
As I look back, probably the most fun in coaching I ever had was coaching junior high boys.
Yeah.
Because they believed whatever you said, and they would do anything you asked them to do.
Right.
As people get older, they get a little more cynical. But when they're young like that, they just want to please the coach. And that was always a lot of fun and seemed to always give you everything they had. That was always great. But I think just experiences, I'm still in touch with guys that I coached in junior high and even in high school, and that's been, years ago. But just staying in touch, building some relationships. Also, not just relationships with your athletes, but also with your fellow coaches, with staff, with just your peers, and like here at Freed-Hardeman, just people on campus that
right.
you're able to build relationships with. I even built a friendship with you, and that's hard to do.
Right.
Not anybody could do that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the easiest person, I guess, here. I talked with Kristen Gillette a couple episodes ago about being a positive influencer, and one of the things with being a coach, and I talked to Bruce Brown about this as well, is he has players that he coached 30, 40 years ago that they still get together for a golf weekend, and he still is their coach, even if he's not, they're currently their coach. They still view them as a coach. So that influence and that platform that people that work in athletics have, goes long beyond their time just as a coach, because as you said, you have those relationships that you've built, keeping in touch with those players. So a lot of times even though the official role is not there anymore, maybe as a coach or athletic director, you still have that influence that you've left. So that's always, I would think that would probably be pretty rewarding as well.
Yeah, there are several groups along the way in coaching that I know still get together. They communicate on a daily basis. We've lost a few of those guys. I went to a funeral a couple years ago, and it was like every teammate that he had was there. And there's just that bond and that, that stays there. And I may not see these guys for years, but they have a bond. And, the fact that they were able to build that means a lot.
Yeah. We talk a lot about the identity that a lot of these, and it's becoming maybe more of an issue now with people putting their identity in their abilities to play a certain sport or maybe just the talent that you have. So people put their identity in that. And that might happen a little bit too with coaching. If you've coached for so long, your identity is as a coach, which can be a good thing, but sometimes can leave you kind of wondering what your identity is after you leave athletics. So maybe how did your sense of identity change after you left athletics to now what you're doing, retired, working, in a little bit different role? How did that transition go from you from working in athletics to no longer working in athletics?
Well, I've always believed that you should never identify yourself with one thing, one area. There are people that are coaches. They've always been coaches. They'll always be coaches. And when they can't coach, they're not going to know what else to do.
Yeah.
There are people that have given up everything else in their lives to be successful in one area. And I've always felt like you need to have options, and you need to diversify. You need to have a variety of interests. And so when one thing's in, there are things that still interest you and still get you up in the morning and give you a reason and give you passion. So.
Yeah. We talk a lot about the skills and lessons that you can learn from athletics that, and I can't remember who it was that mentioned this, but the lessons that these athletes are learning, they already have a leg up in life because of the lessons they learn through teamwork, how to work with others, all these different things that help you later on in life as well. From your time in athletics, thinking about just kind of real world stuff, not just athletics here, but what skills or lessons from your time in athletics maybe proved to be most valuable to you in maybe working with others, kind of the things outside of maybe the sport itself?
Right. And, you mentioned that, and I always think about this, something I heard years ago. It says athletics is life with the volume turned up. I mean, in that little bit of time, you go through all the emotions, all the experiences, the ups and downs, the challenges, all those things in athletics. It may be in practice, it may be in games, it may be in just team situations, but you experience all those things.
Yeah.
And, I think that just working with people, sacrificing and giving yourself for the good of the group, just learning that lesson. As Wayne Scott, one of our former
he's bringing in some
VPs,
philosophers here,
will always tell me, remember, Mike, it's not about you.
All right.
And we forget that. And hopefully in athletics, people can learn that. And, of course, in the culture in athletics today, that seems to be going the other direction with the paying players and all that. But if an athlete, if you can learn, it's not about me. It's about the group. It's about, it's a much bigger than just me. And I always thought that's important. Working together, communicating with one another. And I'm about to tell you right now, I was never perfect, and I made a lot of mistakes. I made bad decisions. There were players that I look back and say, I wish I'd handled that differently. Yeah. We all have that, but we hopefully learn from those things.
Right.
And I think that's important for all of us, no matter what we're doing. And those are life skills that can carry on with family, with acquaintances, with friends, with whatever we're doing in life.
Yeah. Athletics teaches you a lot of things, but maybe when you leave athletics, maybe there's things that you realize, man, I needed to learn this maybe sooner. Is there anything, maybe we talked about a lot of the skills that athletics does give you after you leave athletics, was there anything, there might not be anything, but was there any skills that you found that you didn't have or maybe needed to improve on a little bit after you left athletics that maybe you're like, oh man, I didn't know I needed to do this after I retired here?
When you've been an administrator and you're the game administrator and you're watching over everything, you're always up and moving. I had to learn how to sit down at a ball game and just enjoy the ball game.
Not be in charge of stuff.
Just come to the game and sit and enjoy it and say, hey, it's not my circus, not my clowns. That's somebody else's problem. Yeah. I just going to enjoy this ball game. You just can
enjoy the game. So, kind of taking a step back maybe might be something you have to kind of learn.
Yeah, and I still tend, if I'm in an area where lots going on, I tend to think I've got to stand and just kind of watch what's going on, and that, I don't have to do that anymore.
Right.
So it's an adjustment. I guess I know that's weird and that's not a big deal, but it's an adjustment.
Yeah, I mean, it's with any job though. If you're no longer in a job, you still you're used to doing that. So it's hard to kind of get the mindset of, I'm not really in this anymore in this way. So yeah, that's interesting. What it maybe surprised you most about your new retirement lifestyle? I don't know. Is that the way we're supposed to word it? But
well, when you're put out to pasture.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because this was something you earned. You were worked at Freed-Hardeman 36 years and coached longer than that other places. So it was the time that you have now to enjoy. You've earned that. You've worked hard. But maybe what is something that maybe surprised you most about? And one of the things I thought of was like, man, I didn't. You may not realized how much work spring was going to have you do at the house. That maybe wasn't a surprise to you though.
No, I knew that was coming, but then my mother moved here, and so that doubled, and so on. No, I guess one of the biggest surprises is how busy I would be after retirement.
Yeah.
Because my wife Spring, she's always seems to be worried. She doesn't want me to get bored. I said I would be okay with being bored a little bit once in a while.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. But it's just, there's always something to do. There's always have something, Of course, you mentioned, I love music.
Yeah.
And we play it with a couple of groups from here, staff, faculty here at Freed-Hardeman. So we play music. We play at different venues, even try to write some music.
Right.
Of course, being on the top 9 and 9, that's
the biggest
highlight.
thrill of your life. So,
just that and church work and just family and doing things that are needed to be done, building things. I'm just busier than I thought I would be in retirement, and that's good.
Yeah. The next question I had for you actually segued right into that, but some of the things you're passionate about, you mentioned music, and we talked about the identity question. A lot of what you have done, this isn't something that's like all of a sudden you retire and you pick up a hobby. This is something you've been doing throughout your time working. You've always played music. You've always, throughout your college days, you had Kid Crews and the T-Birds.
Absolutely.
You've got Four Docs and a Jock. You've got Wildfire. So you got all these different groups you play. And this is not something that's new. This is something that you've kind of done all along. And you mentioned that you like to build things. Anything else that you're passionate about? Maybe you can plug some of the things that you're involved in right now.
Well, the music thing is a lot of fun. Of course, I play with Ryan Frazier and Mark Blackwelder in a group called Wildfire. We play acoustic sets, and we play at little small places around in the area. Then with Four Docs and a Jock, we have Matt Sokolowski and Lee Hibbett also in that group, which is more of electric kind of stuff and more rock kind of stuff. So it's just fun to practice. It's to challenge yourself. It's a challenge. You learn new things, how to do things differently. And so that's always fun. Of course, I've been involved as an elder at church for years, and I just stepped down from that. But just being involved with church, I'm involved with Lions Club. I served a couple of years as president of our local Lions Club, and we're active in the community, serving the community and helping in a lot of ways. So those are some things that keep me going and give me some purpose and feel like I'm helping somebody else.
Yeah. So. When did you get into music? What kind of made you want to get into music? Have you always kind of loved music from an early age, or is that something that kind of you picked up a little bit later?
Well, I always liked it, but in 1965, my buddy's uncle took us to see the Beatles.
Oh, yeah, you're a big Beatles guy.
In California. In San Diego, we went to see the Beatles. Well, I got a guitar not long after that. My mom got me a guitar, took some lessons. Didn't learn much, but I've had a guitar. I still got that guitar. But anyway, just and then I'll just play. Now, you'd think as long as I played, I'd be better at it, but
I think you're pretty good. Like you can actually play stuff without by ears. Like you just start playing stuff.
I can't read a note. I can't do any of that. I just play. I just kind of like a golfer. I just hack at it, know. But I enjoy it, and it's just fun putting it together and playing and performing, and even now writing songs. I've started doing that, and I enjoy that.
Yeah. So thinking about other people that might be in a position where they're maybe been in athletics, maybe been a coach, athletic director, whatever the case may be for a while, and they're thinking about maybe their next chapter in their life, retirement, moving on to something else, whatever the case may be. Maybe what's some advice you would give to them in making that transition to maybe doing something a little bit different, retiring, whatever it might be?
Well, one thing I think people need to understand, no matter how successful we are or not, or however things go, we can be replaced. And when we step out, we should step out and out of the way. I just feel like when you are done, you need to get out of the way and let the next person do their thing and do it the way they want to do it. If they need you, if they have questions, let them come to you. But never let the next person think that you're sitting watching over, criticizing, and judging everything that's going on.
Yeah.
I think that's important.
Yeah, absolutely. So looking back, it's about advice that you've been given, and you probably have I would say you probably have a few people that you value their opinion, mentors, different things. You worked for Charlie Smith for quite a while, and we still go to church with him. You have, friendship with a lot of people that you value their opinion. But looking back, what do you wish someone maybe had told you before you made the transition that you didn't already know going into a life after athletics? What's some advice that you wish, like, oh man, I wish someone would have let me know about this before this happened? Or is there anything?
Well, I think it goes back to, I wish people had emphasized more the idea of appreciate the relationships, build the relationships, do the best you can with that. And, the other will take care of itself one way or another. But understand that it's about people. It's not about wins and losses and all these things. It's about people and taking care of people and trying to help other people grow and help them become better. I think early on that wasn't really stressed, with people that I dealt with. It was more like, we got to find a way to win this game, or we've got to do that. And, just building relationships and caring about people. And I think that's the main thing in athletics.
Yeah, and that's probably the things that people remember more later down the line anyway. A lot of times you say, hey, when you coached in 1992, what was your record? You might not remember, but they might remember what happened sometime throughout that season, what relationships that, were developed and different things that happened throughout that season. That's usually probably what the players remember too. They don't remember all the wins and losses. They remember kind of what was going on throughout that season. So I think that's important.
They remember what happened on the bus on the trip home.
Right, yeah. Not even anything with the game itself.
Or something that happened in the locker room, or, something a coach said that everybody just, broke down laughing at, or, things like that.
Yeah.
Those are the things that they remember.
Yeah. So you're a little bit unique in that not every coach goes on to be in an administrative role, like athletic director or some other role that's kind of administrative. So for you, I'm just curious, how was that transition like, but also which one did you maybe enjoy more? Probably enjoyed different things about each one, but did you enjoy maybe being in that administrative role more than coaching, or about equal, or which one would you say on there?
Well, it really comes in stages, like in coaching. I had the passion I needed to have for a long time, but, there was a point that passion began to wane, and it wasn't what it needed to be. And it may have been just the culture, how things have changed through the years in athletics and all that. But when you get to the point you're not passionate about it and you're thinking, is this the thing for me to be doing? It's time to reevaluate and look at something different. And so moving into athletic director, it was a new challenge. It was something, again, to be passionate about, trying to help coaches be successful, teams be successful, help student athletes receive what they needed. You had that in my career, even at the athletics. There were challenges, in dealing with anybody, group coaches or anybody. There are always challenges and tough times, but also great times. The biggest challenge, I think the thing in athletic, as an athletic director, that really got me thinking about hanging it up was COVID.
Yeah. Oh, a lot of people, yeah.
And everybody, everybody knows if you were any kind of administrator or in charge of groups, navigating that when nobody really knew the answers, having to be at a ball game and telling people you need to put on your mask. Yeah. I hated doing
Spraying
that.
down the doors. You remember when you had to do that?
Spray it down. And it just took the fun out of it. Now, I know we couldn't help it. It was something we needed to do, but it just took the fun out of it.
Yeah.
And so, certain things get you to the point you start thinking, well, it might be time to think about it. And when you lose that passion in anything, we need to all understand there's somebody there that can take my place. And it's kind of like that poem about the indispensable man. I don't know if you've heard it. You need to read it. But, hey, when you're gone, somebody else will fill it real quick.
Yeah.
And they'll probably do a better job. That's the way I always thought about it.
The other question that kind of came to mind, this wasn't on any of the questions I sent you to think about, so you might not have an answer ready for this, but working as a coach, you obviously worked with, part of the time you were a coach, I guess Charlie Smith was there as athletic director, and you might have had to work with some other people as well. Did being an athletic director, transitioning into that role, did it give you a little bit better appreciation for things that those that came before you in that role had to deal with, and maybe gave you a different perspective on that?
Well, absolutely, because when you take that role, you've got to look at a bigger picture. When you're a coach, I mean, your tendency is to look at your area, and always looking around, wanting to make sure you're getting your piece of the pie, you're getting treated the way you want to be treated, you're getting what you need. You become an athletic director, and you've got to look at it from an athletic perspective, but you also got to look at it from a university perspective. You know, what's best for the university? A lot of times coaches don't understand that when you have to make decisions based on what's best for the university, because that ultimately comes first.
Right.
And so there are tough decisions that had to be made, and challenges, a lot of decisions. You know, things were decided that I wasn't in favor of, but as somebody who's answers to the president, it's my job to carry that out.
Yeah.
You know, we had things in the NAI at the time, decisions that were made that, you know, I wasn't for, but we had to support it. Or in the conference, we had to support it. The university, we had to support it. And so it's just one of those things. And coaches and athletes might tend to think, well, he doesn't care about this or that. He's not looking at it from my point of view. Well, you do, but decisions are sometimes made, and you have to make the best of them.
Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned this. This will probably be the last question here. I don't know. I might think of another one before we're done. So you mentioned junior high basketball was probably one of your favorite coaching experiences throughout your whole, I guess, over 40 years. I mean, you worked at Freed-Hardeman 36, but then you worked other places for a few years as well. So probably over 40 years, 45 years, whatever it might be. Throughout your whole time, what would have been your favorite role that you had, whether it be coaching or outside of coaching? What was your favorite thing that you did? Was it junior high or was it something else?
Well, you know, I can't really say it, because when I was coaching junior high, as much as I enjoyed it, I wanted to be a head basketball coach.
Right.
I wanted to be a head high school coach.
Yeah.
When I was a head high school coach, as much as I enjoyed it, I wanted to get into college coaching.
Yeah.
And so I can't really say there's one thing that I enjoyed more than the other. I think in everything there was joy, there were, you know, fun. You enjoyed it, you were passionate about it, and also every one of them had challenges too.
Yeah.
So
just you enjoyed the journey, is what you're saying. You loved.
That's
you
right.
You kind of enjoyed the different steps that got you where you are. I like that.
Well, you know, we all have. They say life's not a destination; it's a journey.
Yeah.
Enjoy the journey, and sometimes we forget that. But it's a journey with a destination. So, but we got to stop. You know, we took a trip.
Yeah, you went out west. Yeah,
which I couldn't have done if I hadn't been retired.
That's right.
We didn't have a big plan. We said, okay, we're heading this way. We go west. We end up in Montana. We go down. We went to, I think, 15 states.
Yeah.
Drove 6,800 miles total.
Yeah. In our Jeep.
We did what we wanted to when we wanted to do it. And to me, it's enjoying the journey, taking time to look and see what's there and appreciating it.
And I appreciate you sending me pictures and making me jealous of all the different places you were going. I got about 4 or 5 pictures, and I was like, man, I wish I could be there right now. But I will say, when Mike and I, when we were, I guess it was back when the women's basketball had the national championship. It was the year they won, I guess, in Montana. We did get to go to Yellowstone. So that was a memorable trip.
Well, we drove to the entrance and then
we didn't get to see everything, but we saw a little bit of. I can say I went to Yellowstone. So.
There you go.
Yeah. So anything else that you can think of that we didn't get to that you want to talk about life after athletics? Anything that you had in mind to talk about we didn't get to?
You know, I just think that, again, just in life, it's important that we don't define ourselves by any one thing. Make sure family is a priority. You know, people forget that. And in coaching and athletics, families suffer.
Yeah.
Because you're gone, you're involved, you have a schedule that doesn't fit the family schedule. But just remember family. Also, just remember, you know, your spiritual life, and make sure that you're taking care of that and having that priority, and making sure one priority doesn't negatively affect another. And that's a challenge. Yeah. But just make sure you have more than one interest in life.
All right, Mike, I appreciate your time today. You know, I know you spring keeps you pretty busy. So I'm glad you were able to step away.
I've got a grandson at the house waiting for me right now.
Oh yeah, we talked a little bit about that. So you have 2 kids. You have Michael and Aaron, and then I guess 3 grandkids, right?
Right.
So Aaron has 1, and then Michael has 2. So,
Right.
So yeah, so you got to get back to them. So I appreciate your time today.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Playing with a Purpose podcast. Special thanks again to Mike McCutchen for being my guest this week. Be sure to listen to this episode and future episodes on Spotify or anywhere you listen to podcasts. You can also catch the Playing with a Purpose podcast on the Freed-Hardeman Athletics Champions of Character website at gofhulions.com/champions of character and on the NAIA Champions of Character website at naia.org/champions of character. Join me for our next episode as I talk with minister at the Henderson Church of Christ, Mr. Robert Hatfield, on the topic of servant leadership. And remember, winning isn't just about the scoreboard, it's about the character we build along the way. We'll see you next time on the Playing with a Purpose podcast.